talk to one constituent ever to talk to them and give them condolences because you are making them less safe and secure.
To the CEOs taking their health care, letting their farms close. You don't care about the American people. You're distracting from the real issues.
I care about the American people.
You want them to be afraid of immigrants because all you have is fear, Sean. You want people to be fearful. Their pain is real, but it's not immigrants. It's the corporate CEOs who are screwing them over and making it so that they cannot afford groceries in their health care. That's who we need to go after. This is not the America. The America I believe in does not look like this. The America I believe in does not look like masked men targeting people. Shameful. Shameful.
Let me tell you what you're doing.
There's nothing like a fresh cup of Hannity on first thing in the morning. Am I right? There's something so cathartic about seeing someone as truly vile as Sean Hannity getting steamrolled on his own show. You know, especially when he's defending and justifying state-sanctioned violence.
I'm glad you're bringing up a list, because if you want to go after rapists and criminals, you would stop hanging out with perverts in the White House and pedophiles in the White House, Sean.
Homicide, rape, sexual assault of
Are you going through Trump charges? Or when are you going through Trump charges?
And drugs. So my question to you is simple. My question,
or what are we talking about?
I've never seen somebody that looks so clearly smug and so clearly in their face and their facial expressions insincere. You can just tell they're BSing to rile up their audience as much as Sean Hannity. And there are a few strong contenders there at Fox News as well. Laura Ingraham does it. Jesse Waters does it. Greg Gutfeld does it. Hannity might be the worst. And he's the classic. He's kind of the OG of not caring at all about people, but pretending that he does, and just instead trying to scare people and keep them fearful and keep them racist so that he can make more money. He gets called out once in a blue because they want the fireworks on their show, so they booked Tennessee State Rep Justin Jones to come on, and here's a little more of that.
My question is, if you'll pay attention long enough to listen, my question is simple. Can you name any of the victims of violent crime by illegals in your state? And have you ever called any of them?
To your viewers,
answer the question.
You to be afraid. He wants you to be fearful of your immigrant neighbors. Because he wants to protect the
can you name one victim of violent crime
He does
in
not
your
care about
state?
Crime. He hangs out with pedophiles and criminals in Mar-a-Lago. He does not care about going after rapists. He cares about keeping you fearful, to control you, because he wants to distract you from the real enemy, which are the corporate CEOs who are screwing you over.
Okay.
He does not care.
You got your little talking point out? You feel good about yourself? This is not MSDNC.
And look, Hannity's question is a straw man. Should the rep also be focused on the victims of crime in his state? Of course he should. But that's not the topic, and that's not what he's been brought on for. He should meet with these people. He should be able to say, I meet with them and I care about them. But that doesn't do anything to disprove his points that he's making to Hannity at the same time. Doesn't really add much to the conversation, and he's just trying to discredit Representative Jones, doing so by also kind of stoking and continuing this racial animosity that is so much of what ICE's mission is.
Pay close attention. You're comparing the KKK. What do you know about the KKK? Do you know
I come from
about
Tennessee, where the KKK was founded. They ran my grandparents out of Tennessee. They ran my grandparents out of Tennessee.
You know some
my dad was a
crime.
U.S. Marine. He
they
fought
were
for
murderers.
this country.
They
Who have
hung
you
people.
served,
They
Sean,
assassinated people.
Your pocketbook.
Evil racist. And Gestapo.
Yes.
They
and
led
just
people
like the
to their
of the United
death.
States.
And you're comparing law enforcement that are arresting those criminals,
shooting mothers in the face,
to those people.
Shooting mothers in the face. Shooting mothers in the face. Bringing grandfathers out in the snow with boxers on.
But that's not ICE. But that's not ICE. Now I have a question.
Mothers and babies
so
in
my
cars.
question
That's what
remains.
ICE is doing.
And look, that's bold. Rep Jones comparing ICE to the KKK.
We need agitation before, collaboration. In my state here in Tennessee, we're seeing the opposite of what we're seeing in Minnesota, where we're having the state government partner with these terror agents from ICE and say, how can we expedite this and how can we increase and expand these operations in our state? And so we are saying that we must agitate before we collaborate with these forces of violence. And it's not the first time we face them. Here in Tennessee, we had another terror group who used to wear masks and hide their identities, known as the KKK. And our the folks we're celebrating this week, the civil rights movement, Dr. King took them on, 10 toes down, their heads up, saying that, what we're doing is for generations yet unborn.
Obviously, I don't think ICE is as bad as the KKK. The KKK hung people and tortured them outright. But there is an argument to be made that the KKK was a rogue group that didn't have the backing of the U.S. government, and ICE does. And so, in that way, it's a scarier thing to, instead of having a group that the society at large disavows, having a group that a large part of society supports because the president says they're doing a legitimate mission and they're doing it very clearly in a way that is just so disruptive and aggressive and racially motivated and with untrained people that are there just to wreak havoc into the lives of American citizens and of people who have been here their whole lives, even if undocumented, and not focusing on the violent criminals that Trump promised he would focus on. They claim it's because they care so much about crime, getting victims of crime supported and getting the perpetrators of crime out of the country, getting them punished for what they've done. So how about the Epstein files? You'd think it would be consistent there, but look at this.
The Department of Justice missing a key deadline to release all of the Epstein photos and documents. Now, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi is under fire, facing a bipartisan threat of legal action from lawmakers pushing to have her held in contempt.
They're flouting the spirit and the letter of the law. It's very troubling, the posture that they've taken.
By law, the DOJ had until last Friday to release all of its Epstein-related records. But sources tell ABC News what the department published was just a fraction of its Epstein files, and reams of released records are heavily redacted, entire pages blacked out. In a statement, more than a dozen Epstein survivors, including Danny Bensky, writing, "We are told there are hundreds of thousands of pages of documents still unreleased. These are clear-cut violations of an unambiguous law."
A month ago,
all of them were supposed to be released.
Congress passed a law,
right,
that almost unanimously that said that the DOJ and the Trump administration had to release all of the Epstein files, every one of them,
Act,
every one of them, to stop if people in MAGA world are right, to stop the protection of rich, powerful sex offenders. Yeah, but the Trump administration will not do it. The DOJ will not do it.
Has he ever invited you or any of the survivors to meet with him in the White House?
No.
You barely got an audience with some of the Republican female members of Congress, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few of them said they would show up for us, but in the end, they ended up not. And the judge is being asked to decide whether the Department of Justice can be trusted to oversee itself here, and the record says it can't. And there are millions of documents. We are months behind the legal deadline. And that's infuriating for us because we fought so hard to get that, and we're not getting anything. We're getting like bits and pieces and confusion, and it's people off.
Wow, so weird. Trump blows off the Epstein file document release deadline that the courts say he must do. Congress voted nearly unanimously that they have to release them by that deadline, and they're not doing it. So look, it is your right as an American citizen, of course, to defend ICE if you want as well. It is a government agency. It's the current administration in charge, but then at least be consistent. If you're gonna defend ICE, you can't refuse to also be equally critical about the administration dragging their feet to protect child sex traffickers, right? And to just throw victims of child sex crimes under the bus, right? And not care about them. Is there at least a consistent standard we could have, maybe? Does that sound reasonable? But I guess not, because for some people, party matters over country, party matters over truth, over justice, over clear right and wrong. As long as your team wins, that's all that matters to a lot of people. And we can't have a country if we only care about tribalism and party, and we care seemingly so little about morality and having just an obvious sense of what's right and what's wrong. We can enforce our laws, but then let's enforce all of them equally, and let's do it in a way that respects human beings and their human rights, and does it in a way that uses common decency as sort of a base, bottom-level moral principle. I'm not even expecting too much anymore out of us. Just basic common decency would be nice. I'm Ben Gleib for Rebel HQ. You can follow me at Ben Gleib on Instagram for lots of stand-up comedy videos if you need a break from all of the madness of this news cycle. Or, stay right here and watch more of that. That works too.